Hi, it's Katrina. Number 10. Mystery Jar Burials. In the spring of 2019, researchers working with the French National Institute for Preventive Archaeological Research made a grisly discovery. On the Mediterranean island of Corsica, they stumbled across a site filled with unearthed ancient tombs. They found an overflowing graveyard with roughly 40 burials, dating between 1,700 and 1,400 years old. When the researchers went back in 2021 to excavate the graves, they made an even more shocking discovery. They found human remains scattered with shards of ceramic. This was a little strange because ceramic vessels were used between the 3rd and 6th centuries for transporting liquids like olive oil and wine. However, they were scattered throughout the graveyard and were mixed with pieces of human bone. Researchers soon found out why when they discovered a broken jar with a shattered skeleton inside of it. As it turned out, people here were buried inside the giant jars known as amphorae. It was only one of many ways that the people of the island buried their dead. Some of the tombs were found cut into rock like in ancient Egypt. Others were more Roman in style, with tiled ceilings and clean floors. One individual was buried in a set of nested ceramic pots, and others were laid to rest in oversized jars. The most confusing part of all is that people didn't really practice jar burials except when it came to funerary rituals and infants. Multiple societies in Europe buried infants in jars, though nobody is really sure why. It's very rare that full-grown adults are found buried in huge wine jars. To this day, researchers are still struggling to figure out what ancient group of people buried their dead in this bizarre way, and what the significance was. Number 9. The Cult of Aphrodite. Archaeologists discovered something amazing in a mysterious cemetery in Russia, found within an ancient establishment on the coast of the Taman Peninsula. They unearthed the burial of a priestess from a strange cult dedicated to the worship of Aphrodite, the Greek goddess of love and beauty. Aphrodite was worshipped thousands of years ago all throughout the Mediterranean, and yet this mysterious burial was found near the Black Sea in southern Russia, far from Greece. The burial dates back 1,900 years to the 1st century AD. This amazing recent find was made by archaeologists Nikolay Sudarev and Mikhail Treister in 2022. Within the priestess's grave was a shiny silver medallion with the image of Aphrodite on it, along with the signs of the zodiac. It's believed that these types of medallions were used by people in ancient times obsessed with astrology. By having the medallion in their possession, they thought it connected them to the celestial bodies in the heavens and helped them navigate their lives on Earth. This discovery proves that the cult of Aphrodite spread far beyond the borders of ancient Greece. The goddess was worshipped across much of Europe, revered as a deity of pleasure, passion, lust, and love. Whoever this woman in the grave was, she had likely held a position of power within the cult. She wore the great silver medallion around her neck and would have been treated just like any ordinary priest would today. Number 8. Pompeii Chariot. One of the most celebrated archaeological discoveries of 2021 was a chariot found in the fabled city of Pompeii. The chariot was once drawn by 4 horses. It was likely used in lavish ceremonies and then destroyed with the rest of Pompeii. When Mount Vesuvius erupted in 79 AD, the chariot was mostly obliterated, and its remains were covered in volcanic ash. What's truly amazing about this discovery is the state of preservation the chariot was found in. Archaeologists were shocked to see that the chariot was mostly intact. They learned that it was made from beechwood, and it was coated in red and black paint. They also found traces of the ropes that were used for the horses' harnesses. It's currently the only chariot of its kind ever found intact in Italy from the days of ancient Rome. However, the chariot isn't the only discovery they made here. It was uncovered inside a suburban villa near the stable, parked in the ancient equivalent of a garage. Near the chariot were the remains of 3 horses, one that was preserved in volcanic ash still wearing its harness. The chariot was seated on huge iron wheels and used an advanced mechanical system to operate. This kind of vehicle most likely wasn't used for roaming around town, though. Instead, it would have been reserved for elite Roman ceremonies. Number 7. Mummy juice. In the port city of Alexandria, located on the northern shore of Egypt, archaeologists discovered one of the most horrific burial chambers ever found. They uncovered one huge sarcophagus with the bodies of 3 people floating in a murky red liquid. It was a truly disturbing find. The sarcophagus itself was pure black and made from solid granite. It was discovered in the Sidi Gaber district by archaeologists who couldn't believe there were 3 ancient mummies inside of it. These weren't your typical Egyptian mummies either. They had seriously decayed and were little more than fleshy skeletons, as if they'd been left to boil in a pot for too long. The discovery was so bizarre that locals flocked to the site to try and get bottles full of the gross mummy juice inside the sarcophagus. There were rumors of an ancient curse being unleashed with the opening of the sarcophagus, and many people believed the liquid had some kind of supernatural power. There were rumors going around that it was some kind of elixir of immortality. However, it's a good thing nobody was allowed to steal the liquid. Researchers analyzed the mummy juice and found that it was nothing but sewage water. The granite sarcophagus was found buried underneath the modern city, and it had been subjected to years of sewage leakage. Researchers believe the sewage water from a nearby building leaked through a small crack in one side of the sarcophagus, filling it with water. This liquid then helped to melt the remains inside, which resulted in a nasty human soup, steeped in sewage broth. Number 6. Chiang burial dolls. Almost nothing is known about the mysterious Chiang culture of Peru. Because they left behind no written records, all the information we have about them comes from archaeological evidence. And unfortunately, that's not very much. We know the culture likely existed from between 1000 and 1400 AD in the valleys of Chiang and Chillon, located on Peru's central coast. The more famous Chimu culture invaded the southern territories and conquered many parts of their kingdom. However, around 1450 AD, both the Chimu and the Chiang were conquered by the mighty Inca Empire. Some of the few artifacts the Chiang left behind are dolls. They had an obsession with producing huge clay dolls with unrealistic proportions. These dolls had gigantic heads, tiny legs, and large hands with only 3 fingers. They've also found evidence that the Chiang produced fabric, but what they are really known for today is their production of dolls. The Chiang burial dolls are the strangest of them all. They were made from woven fabric and were stuffed with reed, fiber, or small grains. The tiny dolls would then be dressed and have huge dramatic facial features sewn onto them. They were quite impressive, and each doll would be holding a significant item in one hand, something like yarn or a musical instrument. Since there's no written records, archaeologists can only speculate on the purpose of these highly unique dolls. They were most likely meant to represent human beings, and because they were only found in graves, they must have had some funerary importance. They could have been representations of servants that would come alive in the afterlife to help the deceased. Number 5. The jovial skeleton. A recently discovered mosaic in Turkey seems to suggest that even 2,300 years ago, people had a sense of humor. Archaeologists estimate that the piece of art was likely created in the 3rd century BC. The mosaic depicts a rather jovial skeleton, with a big smile on his face and a drink in his hand. The Greek inscription on the mosaic reads, "Be cheerful, enjoy life." It's the ancient equivalent of modern-day inspirational quotes like, "Don't worry, be happy," or "Live, laugh, love." Archaeologist Demet Kara from the Hatay Archaeological Museum said the jovial skeleton was found in the dining area of a contemporary house. The residence was built in the city of Antiochia, a city that grew to be one of the largest in the world during the Roman era. The mosaic is shocking evidence that ordinary men and women in ancient times not only had a sense of humor, but also had similar decoration tastes to what we do today. This mosaic is comparable to a humorous welcome mat that you may see on someone's front porch. And amazingly, it was found in the kitchen of an ordinary family's home. Number 4. The Mummified Toddler. After 400 years, scientists have finally solved the mystery of a mummified toddler that was discovered in a wooden coffin deep in the crypt of the Counts of Starhemberg in Austria. The crypt belonged to one of the oldest aristocratic families in the nation, with the coffin dating back to the 17th century. Researchers from Germany believe the mummified boy was Richard Wilhelm, who perished sometime between 1625 and 1626. The crypt contained several other members of the family, each one buried in an intricately decorated metal coffin. However, for some odd reason, the coffin of the young boy was made of wood and was found unmarked and undecorated. Researchers wanted to know why the child was buried in a dull wooden box and how he became naturally mummified. In order to solve this mystery, they used CT scans and radiocarbon dating. According to Andreas Nerlich, the lead author of this study, the infant was between 12 and 18 months old when he died. He had deformed ribs, indicating that he may have suffered from a metabolic bone disease. They believe the infant likely developed something called rachitic rosary, which is when knobs of bone grow at the junction of ribs and cartilage. This is something that usually only appears in severe cases of scurvy, but somehow afflicted this small child. They also found inflammation in the boy's lungs, meaning he may have had pneumonia as well. What researchers concluded was that this child may have never seen the sun, or he at least had a severe vitamin D deficiency. In the 17th century, members of the upper class were notorious for avoiding sunlight because pale skin was desirable. It could be that this child suffered serious illnesses because his parents kept him inside. Then, when he died prematurely, they placed him in a box deep in the crypt, like they were burying a bad memory. Number 3. The Last Maya Stronghold. A new excavation project has unearthed some amazing artifacts at the site of Tayasal in Guatemala. This outpost is believed to have been the very last Maya city to stand strong against the Spanish conquest. It was first inhabited by the Maya around 900 BC and was the very last place to fall when the conquistadors invaded. Believe it or not, this didn't take place too long ago. The Spanish conquered the city in 1697, over a century after Europeans began pillaging Central America. Even though the Spanish had already gained control of the entire civilization, they just couldn't leave the last standing stronghold alone. And so they entered the small outpost and decimated the population. According to Suarlin Cordova, who was involved in the recent study, the jungle was partially responsible for the safety of Tayasal. The thick vegetation of Guatemala acted as a natural border, hindering the Spanish for over 100 years. But unfortunately, the Spanish eventually made their way through the thick jungle and attacked the city. Now, archaeologists have managed to uncover human remains, ceramics, and bullets from Spanish guns. There is no way to say for sure if these bullets were used to slaughter the last few remaining Maya in Tayasal, but it certainly looks that way. Number 2. Gold belt in a beet field. In the Czech Republic, an ordinary beet farmer came across one of the most valuable artifacts ever found in the country. The farmer was busy working on his property when he discovered a crumpled sheet of gold sticking out of the dirt. The frail and mysterious object turned out to be nearly 2,500 years old and proved to be extremely important. He sent photos of it to local archaeologists, who quickly arrived to see just what the farmer had uncovered. They now believe the sheet of gold is a belt from the Bronze Age. It was likely the front part of a leather belt, and it's in almost perfect condition. Expert Teresa Kilnar is currently at work stabilizing and analyzing the belt at the Museum Bruntal. She's estimated that the gold belt dates back to the 14th century BC. This was a time when Central Europe was a blend of various cultures connected by a large trading network. Farmers grew wheat and livestock, society was on the verge of becoming complex, and a hierarchy was just starting to form. This discovery is so new that not much is known about the belt at the moment. We still don't even know if the object is part of a larger treasure hoard buried in the beet farmer's field. It was found on the surface, suggesting there could be a lot more hidden under the dirt. During the Bronze Age, gold wasn't exactly common. It was usually buried with powerful individuals, and chances are the gold belt came from a wealthy person's grave. likely hiding beneath the beet field. Number 1. Ancient Egyptian boats. Archaeologists found over 120 images of ancient Egyptian boats scrawled on the walls of a mysterious building in Abydos. The building is at least 3,800 years old and was built near the burial place of Pharaoh Senwosret III. Although the building is empty now, Joseph Wegner from the Penn Museum at the University of Pennsylvania says there is a good chance that it once held a real wooden boat. Archaeologists did happen to find a few planks from that alleged boat, but they were little more than decayed sticks. It's believed that 3,800 years ago, the walls of this building would have been covered with way more than 120 illustrations. Some of the white plaster on the interior walls has survived the centuries, and there's still a lot of images of ships that can be seen right now. But back then, there could have been thousands of these pictures. This discovery is extremely strange because researchers have no idea what it all means, or who created the drawings in the first place. They think this building could have been used in some kind of grand ceremony, but nothing else like it has ever been found in Egypt before. The boat that was once housed here may have been part of a burial ritual, or maybe it was some sacred artifact that deserved its own temple. For now, this place remains a mystery. Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you next time. Bye!